Hey guys, it's Mr. Kennedy back again with another video on plants. This is plants part 2, and it's going to be talking about resource acquisition and the transport of materials in a vascular plant. And I'm going to focus a little bit on water potential. Now, when we think about the evolution of plants, we need to think about that where plants came from. Originally, there were green algae were their ancestors, and they lived in water. So their close proximity to water, they didn't have to have a way to transport water throughout the plant. So these algae were non-vascular. They didn't have xylem and phloem. Now, as plants became on land, then they had to compete for light, water, nutrients to survive. Every which one could go to tallest is the one who outcompeted the other ones for light, etc. But you still had to figure out how to get water up the plant. And that's the whole vascular tissue came into play, and that's when the vascular plants began to dominate life on land. Now, when we look at the evolution of plants in general, there is this mycorrhiza, which is a mutualistic association between fungi and the roots of plants. And I've spoken about this before, but I just think it's significant enough that I need to tell you once more. 80% of all extinct plants species have this fungus growing on them. Now, it just makes it where they have a better uptake of water, a better uptake of minerals, and it helps the plant to grow. And it's critical for success of life on land. Now, short distances, we think about water going through a process of osmosis or diffusion of water, which is simply the movement from a high concentration to a low concentration. This requires no energy whatsoever. Now, when we think about water potential, this predicts the direction in which the water will actually go. If you got a higher concentration on one side and on the other, you can tell which way it's going. Water potential is written with a symbol that looks kind of like a three-pronged trident, and it is called psi, and it measured in megapascals, which is a unit of pressure, and a psi of pure water at sea level would be 0. So you can see that they're going to go from there, either negative or positive from there. Now, we have a water potential formula which says water potential is equal to the solute potential, which is psi with an S at the bottom, plus the pressure potential, which is psi and a P at the bottom. Now, of course, pure water, the solute concentration is going to be 0. Now, solutes, what would they be? That would be like minerals, salts, anything that may be in the water. So that's going to affect the ultimate water potential. Now, pressure, it can be positive or negative depending on where you're at. And this pressure is what creates what we call turgor pressure. Now, inside of a plant, whenever a plant wilts, it wilts because, let me draw you a plant cell. If I have a plant cell here, okay, and it has a central vacuole that is full of water, it's actually pressing against the sides of the cell wall, and it creates what we call turgor pressure. Now, when a plant wilts, what happens is this central vacuole actually shrinks, and we've seen that. That's called plasmolysis, and this would have less turgor pressure. It wouldn't have that full pressure exerting on the cell, which causes the plant to wilt. Now that's all linked to water pressure. Now when we talk about water pressure or water moving across the plant cell membrane, we have to talk about different things. You need to know what flaccid means. If you hear the word flaccid, that means whenever you have plasmolysis has occurred, which is the shrinking and pulling away of the central vacuole from the cell wall, and it causes the plant to wilt. Turgid is going to be very firm. It's going to be pushing against the walls. Wilting caused by when you have loss of turgor pressure. And a thing called bulk flow. Bulk flow is the movement of liquid in response to a pressure gradient. And bulk flow is actually what moves xylem, or the material that's in the xylem called xylem sap, up the tree, is this bulk flow. And then we've talked about aquaporins before, and I thought that was a good place to put them again. Aquaporins are the pores in the plasma membrane which facilitate or help osmosis to occur. All right, now when we talk about plants, we've got to talk about transpiration. Transpiration is when a plant loses water to the environment. Now, if you look at this picture down here at the bottom right-hand side, it's got the pressures. It starts out at negative 0.3 megapascals, then negative 0.6 megapascals, negative 0.8 megapascals, 1 megapascals. So as you go up, the pressure becomes less. So what is it going to do? Water is going to move from high pressure to low pressure, and that's going to cause water to go up. So the water potential of the plant is increasing as we go up because it's going up until eventually it will come out of the plant itself, and that's what causes transpiration or loss of water. And we'll do an activity, an AP lab on transpiration a little bit later. Now, when you talk about a single corn plant can lose 60 liters of water during growing season, that's a lot. So you're talking about 30 2-liter bottles of water can be lost by simple transpiration or being pushed out by this by this water potential. And of course, air has the least water potential. That's why it eventually comes out of it. Now, when the rate of transpiration sometimes can be regulated by what's called a stomata. There's a picture of the stomata down here. Now, if you remember stomata is the opening in the leaf. That's this pore. And the stomata actually has 2 guard cells. Here's one. Here's the other one. 2 guard cells, one on each side of the stomata, which control the opening and closing. Now, the stomata is needed because this is where carbon dioxide and oxygen is exchanged. But it also leads to loss of water. As I put here, about 95% of water loss occurs through the stomata. So about 95% of the water lost by a plant comes through the stomata. Now, I hope that helps you a little bit understand how water moves out through the plant, and I will talk to you soon.